Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat. We'll start the program with recitation of Holy Quran. Can we please welcome Muhammad KSIMC with Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يعلمون ظاهرا من الحياة الدنيا وهم عن الآخرة هم غافلون. أولم يتفكروا في أنفسهم ما خلق الله السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إلا بالحق وأجل مسمى. وإن كثيرا من الناس بلقاء ربهم لكافرون. أولم يسيروا في الأرض فينظروا كيف كان عاقبة الذين من قبلهم كانوا أشد منهم قوة وأثاروا الأرض وعمروها أكثر مما عمروها أكثر مما عمروها وجاءتهم رسلهم بالبينات فما كان الله ليظلمهم ولكن كانوا أنفسهم يظلمون. ثم كان عاقبة الذين أساءوا السوء أن كذبوا بآيات الله كانوا بها يستهزئون الله يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده ثم إليه ترجعون الله يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده ثم إليه ترجعون الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفة. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله العلي الأعلى، يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام، ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم، قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء، فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيه واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيه، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال نبي ثانية: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيه واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيه، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي: إذن والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
Thank you very much, Mohammed Kazim and Amar Merali. Now we have a qasida by our three young growing boys coming up. I'll call out their names: Ali Raza Damani, Abbas Ali Raj, and Hussein Mauji. Can we please welcome them with Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
الله
يا علي يا دم ہمدم علی 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 مولا 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 علی مولا علی مولا جلال ذوالجلال ہے علی علی خدا کا ہم خیال ہے علی علی جلال ذوالجلال ہے خدا کا ہم خیال ہے بلندیاں یہ دیکھ کے پکارا دل میرا علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے علی پسند ہے مجھے ہاں علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے علی پسند ہے مجھے رجب کی 13ویں کو یہ بتوں سے کعبہ بول اٹھا چلو یہاں سے جاؤ اب تھا جتنا رہ نہ رہ لیا خدا کا ہے یہ فیصلہ علی علی ہے جس کا گھر وہ آ گیا علی علی خدا کا ہے یہ فیصلہ ہے جس کا گھر وہ آ گیا نہیں پسند مجھ کو تم مجھے تو بس میرا علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے علی پسند ہے مجھے ہاں علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے علی پسند ہے مجھے مناؤ جشن یہ کہا خدا نے خود خدائی سے ملے ہیں آج مصطفیٰ زمین پہ اپنے بھائی سے نبی کی گود میں علی 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 جب آئے تو نظر ملی علی علی نبی کی گود میں علی جب آئے تو نظر ملی علی جو مسکرائے تو یہ بولے مصطفیٰ علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے یا علی علی پسند علی یا علی یا علی یا علی یا علی مدد حق ہے علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے علی پسند ہے مجھے ہاں علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے علی پسند ہے مجھے نہ جانے کتنے لوگ تھے جو سو سکے نہ رات بھر تھے منتظر بطول کا بنے گا کون ہم سفر ستارہ عرش سے چلا علی علی لیے رضا فاطمہ علی علی ستارہ عرش سے چلا لیے رضا فاطمہ علی کے در پہ آ کے ستارہ بول اٹھا علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے علی پسند ہے مجھے یا علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے علی پسند ہے مجھے مجھے پسند نہیں ہے کسی کی بات کرو خدا کی بات خدا کی ولی کی بات فرشتوں قبر میں کیسے سوال کیسے جواب، اب آ گئے ہو تو بیٹھو علی کی بات کرو. لیے کتاب ہاتھ میں ہر ایک حساب مانگنے، فرشتے قبر میں جب آ گئے جواب مانگنے، میں مطمئن تھا ساتھ ہے علی علی میرے لیے نجات ہے، علی علی میں مطمئن تھا ساتھ ہے میرے لیے نجات ہے. فرشتے کچھ نہ کہہ سکے یہ میں نے جب کہا علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے، علی پسند ہے مجھے، ہاں علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے، علی پسند ہے مجھے. من کنت مولا فہذا علی مولا، من کنت مولا فہذا علی مولا. علی کا ہاتھ تھام کر نبی نے خم میں یہ کہا، بغور دیکھ لے سبھی یہی ہے جانشی میرا. کہاں ہے جب رسول نے علی علی ہے سب کے مولا جسے علی علی، کہا یہ جب رسول نے ہے سب کے مولا جسے، تو جھوم کر ہر عاشق علی نے دی صدا، علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے، علی پسند ہے مجھے، ہاں علی پسند ہے بہت پسند ہے، علی پسند ہے مجھے. دم ہم دم علی 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 مولا، 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 علی مولا علی مولا. صلو علی محمد و آل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا بالقاسم محمد. وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. Amma ba'd. Today is the day of Ghadeer, which in the heavens is known as Yawm al-Mithaq. Why? Because all of the angels on this day in Alam Mawara pledged an allegiance after being created to Allah that they would be on this wilayah that is consolidated today, 1500 years ago. Today, by us gathering here, know that this is the greatest of Eids that we have as Shias. And it's unfortunate that we don't celebrate it in the way that we should do. But if you look at the traditions, especially of the sixth Imam, the celebrations of Eid-e-Ghadeer run over 3 days. It's not just one day. And here there's a hadith of the Imam as well. He says, look, we have 4 Eids. 4. Starts off on Fitr and ends on Ghadeer. And this Ghadeer is the greatest of all Eids. This is why it's known as Eidullah al-Akbar. So the fact that we're gathered here and we're talking about Amir al-Mu'mineen in this way, the fact that we're seeing our children reciting about Amir al-Mu'mineen tells you that that lantern which was lit has now been passed from generation to generation to generation. Rasulullah lit this candle on the day of Ghadeer. And one by one it was passed down from Imam to Imam to Imam until the occultation. And then, from scholar to the Awam, from the Awam, father to son, father to son, father to son. If you had a doubt that this may have missed a generation, 5 minutes ago, I saw 3 young men telling all of you that we like Ali ibn Abi Talib. In the same way that you have the philosophy of Karbala, remember this, either you come forward with this lantern or it's passed on to someone else. It doesn't stop for anyone. Allah's hikmah is such, this nur is going to travel. And from the very beginning there was 2, one nur and one dhulamat. If you look at it and see, here nur is singular, because this nur is the same nur of Allah. Dhulamat is multiple. Why? Darkness is found everywhere, but there's a difference. Here, Tawheed is in Nur. Shirk is in Dhulamat. For this purpose, you'll see, Nur is one. That Nur of Allah is what came into Rasulullah, and that Nur has been passed down. What is Nur though here? When Amir al-Mu'mineen says famously, he says, look, if you come to understand my Nur, you come to understand the Nur of Allah. Ma'rifati min nuraniya, ma'rifatullah azza wa jal. There's a connection between this light and this light. And this is what Ghadeer marks. Why? Because light opens. It makes apparent. It brings into existence. It allows you to come to know. And for this reason, the Imam says, if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't understand Tawheed. Why? They're the light of Allah. Allahu nuru samawati wal ard doesn't mean that in the skies and the earth, there's light. It means because of that light, you have heaven and earth. This is why looking at the tartib, Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. Here, samawat, look at it and see, look at nur, one singular, one's plural. Allah's first line of manifestation that He created the entire universe was on nur. And that nur is the nur of wilaya, which takmil is today. This is what Amir al-Mu'mineen's nur symbolizes. So look, as we begin to flow, specifically on today, which is a day of forgiveness as well. It's a day of mercy as well. It's a day of ijabat of dua as well. It's the greatest day for Ahl Wilaya. And this is why you notice we have 4 Eids according to the Imam. You look at it and see how wonderfully it begins. Eid al-Fitr is there for the completion of the month of Ramadan. And that's for everyone. So all of you have to give fitrah. And if you look at it as on produce, in particular agricultural produce. So you come forward, you give fitrah, wajib on you, after the 30 days fasting is complete. Followed from that, the next Eid that comes along as well. Eid al-Adha. Obligatory upon the Hajis is that they slaughter. Otherwise their Hajj is incomplete. And anybody who can afford it, you go and slaughter. So you're giving something. On the one hand, you're giving your rizq. On the other hand, the slaughtering of a sheep is synonymous for your nafs. But then by the time the day of Ghadeer comes, what are you giving? The day of Ghadeer symbolizes the takmil of your deen and wilayah. And this is why on this day you give your bay'ah again to Amir al-Mu'mineen. There you give your rizq. In another place you give your nafs. At this point you give your entire essence and wujud. And you renew that wilayah, which is today. And by the day of Mubahila that comes, Mubahila is synonymous that you give your honor as well for the sake of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. This is what sacrifice symbolizes. And in each case, in each Eid, you give something to gain something. But today, this completion of wilayah is the completion of your deen. And when this deen, you'll see, when this wilayah comes in, then what happens? Then you begin to come to understand truth. Because look, if I put it another way, one day Rasulullah is sitting there, just drawing lines on the sand. One line's going in one direction. One line's going in another direction. Another line is going in another direction. Then he makes a straight line. He says, this is Sirat al-Mustaqim. It is only one line, not multiple lines. One line only. That is the Sirat. Ask yourself the question, what is it? This Sirat is the Sirat of Ali, right? We have enough traditions on this. But if I explain it to you further, look, why is this Sirat important? Can you not fast and pray and otherwise and still get to Allah? On the one hand, look, you eat food. Let's say if there's a bodybuilder. You go and you train. What's the purpose? Strengthening your body. When you pray and you fast, you strengthen your soul. But that doesn't mean that you're guided. It means that your soul becomes dense and the wus of your soul increases. But there's no difference between Khawarij. If you look at the Khawarij, they prayed more than you, they fasted more than you, they prostrated more than you. There's one thing that's missing, and that's this khat of wilayah, which is important. Otherwise, in the modern day, right, when we look at Khawarij, it's one thing. Look at the modern day, look at Daesh, where they're not chopping people's necks off. If you look at some of the stories, they were praying all night. Then look at they were coming into houses. They were cutting women's necks off or cutting their stomachs, taking out fetuses, burning them. There's no way you can do that. They can do that. Why? Because their praying and fasting is taking them towards su. Remember, your physical body can't do that. But if your capacity and soul is dense, if not guided in the right direction, you can commit the biggest atrocities. Look at the biggest and the most evil people within history, and you notice that their capacity is massive. One of them was who? Shaitan. Shaitan in and of itself. 6,000 years of worship where he understands alam and nur, though he was darkness himself. Allah used insani kamil, used wilayah to separate good and evil, which he does all the time. The very first test was between, as we said last week, between the angels and shaitan. Allah knew that this shaitan can't stay here, it's an injustice. What did he do? Tested him. Who did he put? Insani kamil. Put Adam, sahibi wilayah. Then what did he say? He says, now bow. Who's the hukum for? Angels. Why was shaitan kicked out? It's the question that we raised last week. Shaitan is told to get out. Shaitan isn't being told to bow down. The hukum is not for shaitan. The hukum was for the angels. Shaitan is released. Why is he? Arrogance. What did he forget to do? Or the one thing he didn't do was humble himself in front of Insani Kamil. What is Amir al-Mu'mineen there for? The mizan of all of Alam Imkan is Ali. You bow down towards Ali, not in the physical sense, but if you bow down towards Ali like the angels bowed down towards Adam, you're saved. Remember, angels can't physically bow down, they're angels. When Allah says bow, it means put your wujud in front of Ali. Accept Ali as Mawla, and we'll look at the hadith of Ghadeer at the moment. Coming to that hadith. You accept Ali as Mawla, you're like the angels that are bowed. You move away from Imam Ali, you're like shaitan, even if you've worshipped for 6,000 years. In the battle of Nahrawan, on the one hand the Khawarij, on the other hand Amir al-Mu'mineen. What are the Khawarij doing? You've heard about how they were burning people alive. All of these examples of the Khawarij, and you saw what happened in Iraq and in Syria not too long ago. How does a person who prays and fasts do that kind of thing? When the essence and the soul is dense. And sometimes you strengthen it through prayer. How does it happen? How does the strength come along? Prayer and fasting. The problem is the compass is wrong. Your prayer and fasting is going back towards darkness. Wilaya is that light that guides you all the way to Allah. That's what the difference is. It rebalances you. Look, you'll find practically that sometimes the most arrogant people are the most religious. Sometimes the most judgmental people are the most religious. Sometimes the most corruptive people in a community and society are most religious. Outwardly they're religious. Why? The teachings of Ali Muhammad haven't penetrated their heart. The opposite is important. Humility, humbleness. Sometimes you shouldn't be able to see that a person physically is religious. Internally they are. Two different things. Do you think Amir al-Mu'mineen had signs that indicated it? Look back and see when he became Khalifa. People were wondering, who's the Khalifa? They were pushing this man towards the back. He said, why do you want to come forward for? He says, I'm the Khalifa, I want to come and pray. Lead the prayers. Nurani of batin is different from the physical features. If I'm coming with my back bent, with a walking stick, with my beard down to my knees, that doesn't mean I'm religious. Religion comes from here. And this is why a 33-year-old man today's arms lifted up, where all of these elders are sitting there thinking that we should be next. A 33-year-old man's hands lifted up. And here the Prophet says, Man kuntu mawlahu fa'aliyun mawla. Purpose of that? What is the purpose? To tell you, it's not age. Adam was younger than Shaitan. خلقتني من نار خلقته من طين. I'm made out of fire, he's made out of clay. Yes, fire is superior, then clay. It is, Allah didn't contradict him. Allah didn't turn around and say that you're wrong. Didn't contradict him. Clay, all sorts, as we said. Clay could be dirty, clay could be pure, fire is pure. Fire burns. Allah didn't doubt him. There's two different things though. Adam's physical feature is not what takes him to alam and malakut. Adam's ruh is such that when Allah says, وَنَفَخْتَ فِيهِمْ مِنْ رُوحِ, Adam contains something, and he contains a part of the ruh of Allah. He contains that wilayah, that haqiqah, makes the angels bow down. So look, developing on this, to take it forward. Today all of you, admittedly all of you are hot. It's a hot day today. I feel like I'm sitting in a mimbar in East Africa, not in London today. It is hot. But you know what? In the same way that your brothers in East Africa would come together and your sisters for Ghadeer, you come for Ghadeer. You've come to celebrate this. So I think today really is about fadail. So let's begin. Look, this week before, just to put a muqaddamah in place, I think many a time people underestimate these 2 weeks. From the 10th, which is Eid al-Qurban, all the way to Eid Mubahila. How many? You have 2 weeks roughly. In these 2 weeks, nearly every single day is a blessing for Ahlul Bayt. Let me give you an example. What happens on the 10th, right? Ibrahim and his son, Ismail. Again, why is that important? Because it's synonymous for Ahlul Bayt. Then on the 13th, what happens? So 5 days ago, what happened on the 13th? Look at the tradition and see. 13th, 15th, 16th, 17th. Look and see. Ayah Wilaya, Innama waliyukum Allah, revealed in these 2 weeks. Hadith-e-Kisa, revealed in these 2 weeks. Right? What else? Ali made Mawla in these 2 weeks. Tathir of Ahlul Bayt in these 2 weeks. Ayah Tathir in these 2 weeks. All of those things, bring them together in these 2 weeks. In these 2 weeks, if you look at all of the ayahs of the Quran, from Ayah Tathir to Ayah Wilaya to Hadith-e-Kisa to Mubahila to completion of your deen, all of these in these last 2 weeks. That's why these 2 weeks are important. That's why these 2 weeks are 2 weeks of rejoicing. For that purpose, that the Sha'an of Ahlul Bayt in the final year is shown to the world that this is my Ahlul Bayt. This is what their status is. This is what their maqam is. Could you start a salawat, please? We could just come forward slightly, please. And one more salawat, please. And one more salawat, please. There's one more hadith I was looking at today. Hadith goes like this. One day Ibn Abbas is walking with the Prophet. Both of them come onto the streets in Medina. And as they're walking, Amir al-Mu'mineen comes forward in these 2 weeks. Just a number of days ago, in these 2 weeks. Says Amir al-Mu'mineen is walking, Ibn Abbas and Rasulullah walking. At that moment, Amir al-Mu'mineen looks up, Imam Ali looks up to Rasulullah. He says, Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah. For the first time, Rasulullah replies in these 2 weeks. With this reply, Jibreel comes. Jibreel tells him how to reply. He says, Wa alayka salam ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ibn Abbas looks up. He says, Ya Rasulullah, are you doing it out of the love that you have for Ali? Or did Allah decree it? Rasulullah looks at him and he says, Jibreel has just come to me and told me to address Ali like this. Question comes, even the Sahaba here know how much Rasulullah loves Ali. Even within the statement is there. But the other thing which is important to realize is this. What does he become? Amir al-Mu'mineen. So Ibn Abbas says, how is it possible in your lifetime there's another Amir but you? Says Allah has decreed that this is the only Amir. Now if I was to ask you a question, what does Amir al-Mu'mineen mean? Some of you will say Prince of the Believers. Wrong. That's not the translation. What does Amir mean? King. What is Ali being made? See, people translate this wrongly because we have an issue with kingship. Why is it important here that it needs to be translated like that? For this reason. Akhirul Zaman, when the 12th Imam alayhi salam comes. This Amir al-Mu'mineen is not for you. This Amir al-Mu'mineen are for the Christians and the Jews who come towards the 12th Imam. Why is that important? Because within Judaism and Christianity there are 2 branches. One of prophecy, one of kingship. What was David? King. Solomon? King. 2 branches. For you it doesn't make a difference whether you call Amir the prince or Amir the leader or the commander or whatever it may be. Again, commander is also not the correct translation. Amir is king. King of the believers. Why is that? Because traditionally Allah had 2 posts. One for king and one for prophet. For this reason you notice that even up to 900 years ago, 600 years ago, within Christendom you had the Holy Roman Emperor and you had the Pope on one side. In Judaism, you have that king who is known as the Mashiach later on. Bin Dawood, who was meant to be coming, the son of David. He was meant to be a king of the Jews. In essence, Jesus. Why was it? Look at the lines of Moses, look at Jesus. They're from different tribes. What is the purpose of kingship? It's different from the purpose of prophecy. Now sometimes a prophet and a king can be combined. This Amir al-Mu'mineen is not for you. For us it doesn't make a difference. We don't understand what it means. That message are for those people who are coming and those many people who converted in the time of the Imam when they saw 5,000 miracles performed in Kufa that none of the prophets from Adam to Khatam have ever covered. Why did Amir al-Mu'mineen show so many miracles? Because remember, there was much doubt on his imamat and wilayat. The more the doubt is, the more miracles were shown. In 4.5 years, so many. So they used to ask him, who are you? He would say, Amir al-Mu'mineen. So that's why when somebody came to the 6th Imam and they asked him, they said, but are you not Amir al-Mu'mineen? He says, no, this laqab is only for our Jad. If anyone else take this, they're kafir. Nobody else can take this laqab. This is only for Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. So remember, there are many different things that you'll find. For example, the whole Quran. There are 900 verses of the Quran which are only and only for Bani Israel, if you look at it. Without realizing the context, it's difficult for you to realize why it is. What do you find in the Quran? Allah says He doesn't sleep, He doesn't slumber. You can ask, we know Allah doesn't sleep and slumber. No, there was a question that was raised there by Bani Israel. Answer is here. There are multiple questions like this. 900, that's 1/6 of the Quran nearly just dealing with Bani Israel. We're unaware of that. Sometimes this is why, if you notice, the closest in fiqh to halakhic law is the Shias. Why? Because our Imams understood all of it. They knew what was mansukh afterwards, they knew what was the same. Look at our rulings, many of them, from our fish rulings onwards. If you look at it and see, it's in line with that. Our Prophet didn't come and say that I'm annihilating everything that went before. He believed in Ibrahim. He said to believe in me is to believe in Ibrahim. There's an evolution that takes place. I'm not saying we're the same. We're not the same. The difference is this though. 1/6 of the Quran deals in symbology that goes back. And this is why imamat is important for us to understand truly what it is. Truly what that symbolism is. Because there was a nur that was being passed down through prophet to prophet to prophet. And this is why the 12th Imam and Imam Ali both are what? Warith, waratha of the Anbiya. Look and see what happens when Imam Ali becomes the Khalifa. And he comes in for the first time into Mecca, into Medina, and he walks, there was a mimbar then, mimbar of the Prophet. As he begins to step on the first step, that was synonymous for the third, and the second for the second, and the third step was for the first. He comes even higher than that, and he sat onto the place of the Prophet. And he said, finally, truth has come back to its place. But when he came and he sat there, what was he wearing? He was wearing the shirt of Ibrahim, that when Ibrahim was chucked into the fire, he was preserved. And he was wearing the ring of Solomon, and he was wearing the amama of the Prophet, and he had the staff of Musa in his hands. He had the tabarrukhat of the Anbiya. He was telling all of you, who am I? I'm the warith of all of these Anbiya. I'm Ali ibn Abi Talib. And these tabarrukat are not in anyone's hands. Think about it. Why is Hussein? Why'd you stand and say, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Adam asifatullah? What is he the warith of? He's the warith of all of the Anbiya. So when the 12th Imam comes, everything comes. All of that tabarrukat of all of the Anbiya come forward. From Tabut as-Sakina, which would glide in the air when the Bani Israel went on to battle. As long as that Tabut as-Sakina was there, they could never lose a battle. In the first temple, you had what? Tabut as-Sakina. So look at all of these things. Many of you looking at me as if you've never heard these before. No, this is within our history. But who is the Imam? Warith of all of these. This is why you need wilaya. Otherwise, you could be somebody like Bal'am bin Ba'ura, having Isma Azam and misguided. Look at it and see. It's not about how much power a person has. It's about whether the wilaya is there or not. Otherwise, shaitan knew Allah. Look and see. Look at the Quran. The way that he uses the names of Allah interchanges from Ilahi to Rabbi, to Rahman. Look at the way he interchanges to Aziz. Shaitan has the ability, he knows the names. Meaning what? He knows how to address Allah. This is why he's still alive until Yawm al-Ma'loom. Understands. There's a difference here. The compass is wrong. Compass needs to be wilaya. Compass needs to be Amir al-Mu'mineen. So look and see. What is Imam? Understand his nur. Today, that's what you're here for. To go into your heart, for that nur to connect. When that nur connects, you find that's when peace comes. Otherwise, look, as we once said, everyone is in their own hell and heaven. We're all suffering because of the deeds that we do. It's internal peace that's important. You could be at peace even on a day like this, when it's so hot, but you could be in peace. Why? Ashik of Ali. I remember what Ayatollah Abdul Karim Kashmiri would say, marhum, the great Arif. The great Arif would say. He would say that, he says, when we were in Najaf, on the day of Ghadeer, we'd go to Kufa from Najaf. And there he said that there were Daravish there, from the Khaksar. There's a Shi'i Sufi Daravish order known as the Khaksar who were in Kufa. He said the kutub of that was a guy by the name of Mustawwar Ali Shah. Famous mystic, many of the Maraji actually his students. Long beard, long hair. He says, I'd go to his majlis. He said, these people were such that from Maghrib time, they would begin, Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Ya Ali. He said, the way that they did, your entire ruh would start expanding. And you'd be must the whole night. It was as if you were intoxicated in the wilaya of Ali. He said, we'd break for tahajjud. He said, 1 year, it so happened. I looked at the time. I said, there's only 10 minutes remaining before Fajr time. How can I walk to the haram of the Imam? It's because I've come to this majlis that I've been delayed. I was just thinking that. Mustawar Ali Shah smiled. He says to one of his students, he says, come, take Abdul Karim back to Najaf. Gets up. Ayatollah Abdul Karim Kashmiri says, he says, we got up to walk. He was talking to me, I didn't realize. 2.5 minutes later, I looked up, there was the wall of the Haram of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said, I learned a lesson. Don't go on the long hair and the long beard. Look at the heart and see. Some people can be far away, but their heart is connected to the Nur of Ali ibn Abi Talib. That's what the main thing is. It depends if your heart is connected. If your heart's dead, that's one thing. You can pray, you can fast. But remember, we teach our children wilayah for a reason. Reason is this. As far away as they go, they come back again. Let me give you a story. Look, now that we're on it. There's a place in Iran called Hamadan. There was an alim by the name of Musawi Hamadani. He narrates this. He says that in Hamadan, there's a place called Gandab. Dirty water, basically. There's a place that there's dirty water that runs. It was known as Gandab. So there was a guy who used to live there by the name, he became famous by the name of Ali Gandabi. And he was one of the big gangsters, you could say, of Hamadan. So the guy used to alcohol, fornication, gambling, all of those things which are haram in Islam. He's doing all of those things. So one thing about Ali Gandabi was that he had haya. All of the other haram things, but he had haya. So one day there was a woman walking past, and he had this beautiful cap on. And he was with one of his friends, and he used the cap and he covered his face. And the woman passed. So his friend asked him, he said, listen, why did you do that for? Such a nice hat, you ruined it. He says, no, I know that this woman's having a fight with her husband. And I know that I'm a tall, good-looking guy. He was meant to be one of the good-looking guys of Hamadan. He says, I didn't want her to look at me in a vulnerable state. So I covered my face. His friend looks up, he says, but you do all of these other things. He says, I may do, but the one thing I don't do is I don't violate another person's rights like this. So anyhow, so he says one day, one of the ulama of Hamadan said, he said at night time he would come out, he would drink, he would do all things that gangsters do. He said one night, one alim said, he says, I was coming back and you have to pass the gates. In the olden days, if you remember, there were gates. You have to come through the gates to come into the city. He says, Ali Gandabi was there and he was must in his alcohol or whatever it was. And this mullah was praying, was saying, look, I've just come back from a majlis. It's late. I don't want to see this guy, otherwise I'm going to be in trouble. Ali Gandabi saw him. He says, oh, mullah, come here. He says, oh, God. Like sometimes you find some of our centers, there's a guy waiting to grab the mullah and you have to use the back door to... Same way. He says, oh my God, what's going to happen? He says, he came forward. He says, what is it? He says, mullah, look at the time. Why are you so late for? What have you been up to? He looks up, he says, Ali Gandabi, today's the 9th of Muharram. And I went to recite the Masab of Abul Fadl al-Abbas. Ali Gandabi slapped his face. He says, I didn't know. He goes, I didn't know. He said, mullah, I'll let you go on one condition. He says, what? He says, can you recite for me a couple of words of musibah? Mullah was thinking, how am I going to get out of this? So as mullahs are, they have many things in their armory. So he looks up and he says, well, I can't really recite until I don't get a mimbar. He looks up and he goes, why don't you be quiet? I'll make the mimbar for you. Get on my back. I'll bend down. Get on my back. Recite a couple of words and I'll go. He says he got on the back. He says, what am I going to recite? In Farsi, he recited 2 words. You all know this. He says, Ahle haram piro alam dar nayamat. That's all he needed to say. He says, I could feel the mimbar shaking. Hey, what's happening? Hey, look down. He says, Ali Gandabi was crying. He was in tears. He gets off. He says, can I go now? He says, of course you can go. He says, I can't believe it. He's crying. Ashura day comes. This mullah goes on the mimbar, finishes, comes down, turns around to his people. He says, look, why don't we go and see Ali Gandabi? He's actually not that bad. I bumped into him last night. He's crying. Let's go find him. So they went to his house. They knocked on the door. His wife opened the door. Says, your husband at home? He was not at home. What happened? Last night he came back. His eyes were red. He was crying. He came into his room, got 2 pairs of clothes together. He says, I'm going to Karbala. He says, if I ever become insan again, human being again properly, I'll come back. Otherwise, take this as my final salam. Story doesn't end there. Now the story begins with Ayatollah Abul Hassan Isfahani, the marja of the Shia before Ayatollah Hakim. If there's probably no one now, or maybe somebody in the 90s who still may do his taqleed. Before Ayatollah Hakim, the marja of Najaf was Abul Hassan Isfahani. They say when Ali Gandabi came, Ayatollah Abul Hassan Isfahani at Maghrib and Isha time would lead the prayers in the Haram. Every time he would look back, he would make sure Ali Gandabi was right behind him. That's the relationship that developed between this man and this marja. Just remember one thing, however bad you are, if your mothers fed you with wilaya, if they fed you with Ya Ali, that is enough. I'm going to come to why. Let me finish the story. Right, we've still got some time. Just remember, don't ever forget Ya Ali. People think, why Ya Ali? What is Ya Ali? Is Isma Azam. Those people who say Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Ya Ali, those are the ones who become wali. Allah's friends are there. This is why your mother taught you, right? They gave you milk and they said Ya Ali. And when you fell over, they said Ya Ali. And when you walked, they said Ya Ali Madad. And every time you were in difficulty, they say Ya Ali. You don't understand what they're saying. Allah knows what Ali is. Right? So come back. So he became one of the greats of Najaf. In a short time that he was there, would look behind him. Ayatollah Abul Hassan Isfahani. Ali Gandabi there, he is. Can I start? Iqama. Ya Allahu Akbar wa start. They say one day Ali Gandabi comes to Ayatollah Isfahani and he says, you know, a news has come in that one of the greats of Najaf has died. Wouldn't it be nice if we can make a grave next to his in the Haram of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Sahan? Ayatollah Abul Hassan Isfahani said, don't worry, I'll come, I'll lead the prayers. About an hour before Maghrib he comes. Guess what? Grave is empty, no body is coming, Ali Gandabi is nowhere to be seen. Ayatollah Abul Hassan Isfahani waits because he knew Ali Gandabi was a good guy. He didn't know him from Hamadan, he knew him from Najaf. Waited. Time gets to Maghrib time. He delays Maghrib just a little bit to see where's Ali Gandabi, is he going to come? He looks behind, he says Ali Gandabi is there. Ali Gandabi looks at him and he says, you know, I was mistaken. The person had a stroke but he hadn't died. Shall we close the grave? He says, no, maybe Allah wants it open. Ali Gandabi looks up and he says, I wish my nasib was such that Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen would keep me as well. Ali Gandabi goes into sajda. Ayatollah Abul Hassan Isfahani finishes Maghrib. He's waiting for him to get his head up from sajda so he can start Isha. 5 minutes go, 10 minutes go, 15 minutes go. He says, maybe Ali Gandabi's fallen asleep. Shake him, shakes. What happens? Looked at him, he was dead. What? Ali called him back towards him. Ayatollah Abul Hassan looks up and he says, bury him here. This grave was for him. Amir al-Mu'mineen didn't not answer his dua, answered his prayer. He asked, Imam says, come to me. This is what Ashiqana of Ali ibn Abi Talib are. Now coming back to this. Listen, as we were saying, your mothers taught you Nade Ali. Now Nade Ali is in Sunni tradition, by the way, as well as Shi'i. I've got the books myself. Every Sunni book that has Nade Ali in it. It's more Sahih in their books than it is in ours. Not that it's not Sahih. Remember this. Not everything can be substantiated analytically. Why? Because du'as are passed down chest by chest. The secret of a dua is that is passed down like this. There are two strands of tradition we have. One transmitted through these books, which is the standard of fiqh. And when it comes to dua and it comes to adhkar, that is transmitted from that person who's ahl to that person who's ahl. That's why it works. Right? That's why it works. If you look today from the Sunnis, the Chishtis, for 40 days they go into khalwa and they recite Nade Ali. With that they develop certain powers, not even being fully 100% on this path of wilaya. Nade Ali itself is powerful. And this is why learn to recite it. In the words of Ayatollah Abdul Karim Kashmiri, he said, whenever I went into the haram of Amir al-Mu'mineen and I had a problem, I would stand in the sahn and 7 times I would recite Nadi Ali. Allah would remove the problems. But look, the way he recites it is not the way that some of you may recite it. Because some of you recite it with the taqiyya, he recites it without the taqiyya. What I mean by that is you may add 1 or 2 things on. He removed those things and he went directly to biwilayatika ya aliyo, ya aliyo, ya Ali. Right? But anyhow, what happens with that? Why is Nadi Ali important? Look, the entire chain itself, the entire Nadi Ali itself tells you how to solve your problems. It teaches you what Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen is. Even before we can get to Ghadeer, what do you say? All of the Urafa recite this. They get to maqam because of this. Some of them, their only word is Ali. In the words of some of our Urafa, when you get to the Ya Ali, at least at Fajr time, recite the Ya Ali takrar, not 3 times, 100 times. And if a person has a difficulty, there's an entire chart that the Urafa have given. Family problems, 18 times. Risk problems, 70. There's from 1 to 110. How many times is one recited for which problem? Now look, I'm not here to go into that. But the blessings of Nadi Ali is that, why? What are you saying? Nadi Ali. Where was it recited? Rasulullah recites it according to Sunni tradition where? At the battle of Khaybar. When he recited it at the battle of Khaybar, who's the Rawi? Umar ibn Khattab. What is he saying? He says, I felt this tickling in my stomach because I wanted to know who Rasulullah was going to give the alam to, that he said last night, Rajulan karrar ghayra farrar. Right? Tradition says that Rasulullah comes out, looks towards Medina, prepares Salman, and he recites Nadi Ali. Nida. Nadi. Call on Ali. Madhar al-ajaib. Madhar, makan of dhuhur of asman sifat of Allah. Madhar al-ajaib. Meaning what? Now, I've said a couple of complex words. Basically, let's put it this way. Madhar is this. Where Allah's 99 names, 1,001 names, infinite names come into Alam Imkan, that place is known as Ali ibn Abi Talib. That is why he's known as Madhar al-Ajaib. Ali is that. When you call upon Ali and when you do tawassul to Ali, in the words of Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amli, the name Ali itself is Isma Azam. Because the name itself contains all of the names of Allah and all of those divine names. So therefore, when a person recites Ali, 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 that Ali from the tongue as dhikr goes into the heart of a person. When it comes into the heart of a person like a seed, the nur begins to shine in that heart. We've underestimated the name of Ali. But now let's come to Ghadeer and see what Ali is. Running quickly. Today, a number of hours ago, Wahi comes down. Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh. Right? Ma unzila, Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh. Ma unzila ilayka min rabbik. Wa in lam taf'al, fama ballaghta risalata. Hukum has been given. Hukum given. Deliver this, otherwise, what does Rasulullah do? Stops in a place called Ghadeer, Khum. What is that place? Why is Ghadeer famous? Ghadeer here symbolizes water. What does water symbolize? Taharat. Purification of the outer. But the tradition says the water was salty. And there's 120,000 people waiting, according to Sunni tradition, to come here. See, the hadith of Ghadeer is the most quoted hadith in all of Islam. Mutawatir hadith, 125 narrators, according to Ahl Sunnah, have narrated this. Rasulullah comes forward and he says this. Stop here. Now I'm bringing to you at least 7 books worth of a dialogue. 2 people come forward. They say, Ya Rasulullah, is it important that we stop here? Because it's really hot. He says, no, it's important. For those people who have gone, call them to come back. And for those people who are not here, allow them to come. He says, but Rasulullah is hot. There's no water here. The water is salty. Rasulullah puts some of the water of his mouth. I'm not going to call it spit because that's insulting. That water drops, that water becomes sweet. Why does that water become sweet? What is Rasulullah telling you here? Remember this, what we said. There are two rivers in Iraq, Dajla and Furat. Furat is sweet. Sweet water is the water of Wilaya. When Abbas's Nafidul Basira looked at the water, until today every child has to take a drop of that so that the Wilaya in their body becomes Wilaya, activated. Furat. And you look at Furat, everyone around Furat, followers of Ahlul Bayt. Go to Dajla and see, where is it? Next to Samarra. Mirza Shirazi, as much as he tried to shift the Hawza there, to this day, if you look at it, who's there? Those very people who blew up there. Nobody wants to live there. Why? This salty water symbolizes Umawi. Sweet water symbolizes Wilaya. Ghadeer became from salty to sweet. Rasulullah was saying, just don't go on the physical taharat. Go on the batini taharat. Water becomes sweet. Now Rasulullah says, he says, now bring a mimbar. Should we go to Medina and bring a mimbar? He says, no. Bring the saddles from the camels and stack them up. 1 layer, 2 layer, 3, stacked it up. Ya Rasulullah, is this sufficient? He says, no. Today I want everyone to see. But Ya Rasulullah, if you were to say it, we'll hear it. He says, today is not just about hearing, it's about seeing. Stacked it all the way to the top. Here Rasulullah goes up. On the one hand, Amir al-Mu'mineen. On the other hand, Rasulullah. Verse of the Quran is in front of you, right? What is the verse of the Quran? Now people have a discussion, what does Mawla mean? Sunni messaged me today, said, look, what does 21 meanings? I said, look at the Quran, my friend. An-Nabi, awla bil mu'minin min anfusihim. Nabi is more awla to you than you are to your own nafs. What does awla mean? Awla means priority. It means more lofty. Basically, in a nutshell, when you call somebody awla, they have awlawiya over you, wilaya over you. It means if they tell you to jump, you jump. If they tell you to sit, you sit. At that maqam, Rasulullah says, he says, Allah is my Mawla. And I'm the Mawla of the believers. And then he says, فَمَنْ كُنْتُ مَوْلَى فَعَلِيٌّ مَوْلَى. Or فَهَذَا عَلِيٌّ مَوْلَى. That whoever I have priority, awlawiya over, awla over, this Ali is also awla to them. What does that mean? That means Ali is awla to his wives. Ali is awla to the prophets. When we Shias today say Ali is also Mawla of 124,000 minus the Prophet, what does that mean? Ali has priority over everyone, including the wives of the Prophet. This is why, according to Sunni tradition, the very first day that the people who came to give bay'ah was the wives of the Prophet who came. Rasulullah, they put water there. In one tradition says there was a cloth there. But if you look at the way Ali's hand was, it was like this. It wasn't like this. It was like this, tradition says. Two people looked up at each other, says, let's go to Rasulullah and tell him, surely he should have his hand like this facing the sky so we can put our hand on his hand to give bay'ah. Some people's nature is like that, right? Let's go and complain about Ali. They went to Rasulullah, they said, listen, we want to complain. His hand's like this. He's not taking bay'ah. He's not taking bay'ah. He says, look, basically in my words, now don't grass him up, ask him yourself. Now he's Mawla. So they went up and they said, Ya Ali, why is your hand like this? He says, because if it was like this, I would want to take bay'ah from you. I'm not here to take bay'ah from you. You give me bay'ah. As the hadith says, Ali's like the Kaaba. You want to do Hajj? You go to the Kaaba. Ali's like the Kaaba. You want to give him bay'ah? You go to Ali and give him bay'ah. Today is that day, therefore, that we come together to re-give our bay'ah to the Imam alayhi salam. Look, that brings our discussion to an end. But the final thing I will say as a conclusion is this. Zamakhshari, famous Sunni scholar, tafsir of Kashaf, in that he says, he looks at two events. One is Mubahila that's coming in a number of days' time. He says the biggest dalil for Ahlul Bayt is that Ali is the nafs of the Prophet. And that side, which means he is exactly Ibn Abbas. Rasulullah says to Ibn Abbas, he says the fadail of Ali, the fadila is he's exactly like me, but prophecy completes with me. One hand mubahila, where Ali is the nafs, and the other hand, he's Mawla of all of the believers. For the sake of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, may Allah grant all of us who are sitting here today this wilaya of the Imam deeply within our hearts and within our nasls to come. May Allah, for the sake of this wilaya, fulfill all of our hajats in this month. All of those who may be going through difficulty, may Allah remove their difficulty. For all of those children who are going through examination, may Allah help them in their examinations. For all who are trying to get married, Allah facilitate their marriage. For all of those who have no job, may Allah grant them a job. For all of them are sick, for the sake of the Wala of Amir al-Mu'mineen, may Allah grant them shifa. May Allah hasten the dhuhur of the Imam. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin.
Thank you very much, Sayyid. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. We have received sad news. Marhum Shabir Bhai Hussain Chakpar, son of Marhum Al-Hajj Roshan Ali Hassan Ali Chakpar of Chicago, USA, passed away today. Please recite Surah Fatiha. Al-Fatiha. Rest of the announcements: Monday 18th of July, 18th of Zil-Hijjah 1443, Thursday 21st of July, Jumeirah program will start at 8 p.m. with Surah Yasin, Majlis by Maulana Mirza Jawad. Friday 22nd of July, Jummah Khutbah at 1:13 p.m. by Sheikh Abbas Ismail. And again, Friday evening program is a Shahadat day of sons of Hazrat Muslim bin Aqil alayhi salam. Program will start at 8 p.m. with Quran, Majlis by Maulana Muhammad Rizvi. Sunday 24th July is the Eid-e-Mubaila. Program will start at 8 p.m. with Quran, lecture by Mu'alim Ghulam Abbas Lakha. The executive committee is pleased to announce the appointment of Aqil Bhai Kanani as the honorary secretary of the KSIMC of London. Inshallah, Aqil Bhai will commence his duties immediately. The ex-secretary Mohsin Qasim will assist the secretariat on a needs basis. Those who have not paid their membership subs should pay at the desk or online, please. Can you please check? Some of them are outstanding, so it's a request that you check it and pay them online or at the Jamaat desk. And finally, those wishing to recite Marthiyah, Nahwa, Duas during the Mahe Muharram and Safar are kindly advised to email their request to recite at hujjat.org. We have one engagement announcement. Monday 18th of July, the Jamaat takes note of the following engagement. Sister Zamina, daughter of Hasnain and Naushina Karmali, to brother Muhammad Abbas, son of Shakir and Sukaina Danji of Peterborough. The Jamaat congratulates all the parties on this happy occasion. Muhammad wa ale Muhammad. Salawat. Now amongst the crowd here, we have a poet. He is going to read a poet to us. I don't see him, but I'm going to call his name. Can we please welcome Muhammad Abbas Jafar with Salawat ala Muhammad wa ale Muhammad.
Scholars, elders, brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum, Eid Mubarak. Okay. I know it's hot, but inshallah get involved. I need your assistance, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Talha, Zubair, Abdul Rahman bin Rauf, Abdullah bin Umar, Khuzaima, Salman, Abu Dhar, Miqdad, Ammar, Sa'id ibn Jubair, Shafi, Bukhari, Ghazali, Suyuti, Tahawi, Shawkani. Those are just some of the narrators of Ghadeer, meaning nobody can deny it. Ghadeer has up to 250 different chains. Why would we even defy it? If you're thinking of ignoring Wilaya, I wouldn't even try it. Many of these people were there. They saw exactly what happened. So those who say it didn't occur, surely their hearts have been blackened. So don't be like Zayd ibn Arqam. Listen to his story and you'll find that he claimed he didn't remember Ghadeer soon after he went blind. Doesn't he know that Ghadeer wasn't the first time Ali was praised? Look back in history and it happened time and time again. Who was that master politician who wrote the Treaty of Hudaybiyah? It wasn't Boris Johnson, let me make that clear. The hadith of Ghadeer has been narrated by scholars in every century for the past 1400 years, so let's jog our memory. Some claim that all the Sahaba are friends. They state it loud and clear. Then what about Muawiyah at Siffin and all those Qurans on spears? No, you can try to put them side by side, Ali and the other companions, but the gulf between them would be wider than a canyon. Some might say that we exaggerate, but here is the thing. Where our intellect ends is where Mawla Ali's begins. Many say Ghadeer happened because of a fight between Ali and Khalid. But wait, I thought the Sahaba never fought. Who are they trying to kid? When Khalid was sent to Yemen, from Islam the people were diverted. Yet when Mawla arrived, within days, the whole country had converted. Now naturally in those black hearts, this created jealousy. They planned and schemed against Imam, they committed heresy. Yes, they committed heresy, but now they're nothing but dust compared to Ali's legacy. The Prophet told Khalid to stop his foolishness before the Hajj occurred. Never feel envy or anger towards Ali. The thought is just absurd. Ghadeer happened after Hajj, when the people were walking home. So the issue with Khalid was over. This much can be known. On his way back to Medina, the Prophet suddenly paused. O Messenger, convey everything revealed to you from your Lord. The 67th verse of Al-Ma'idah, a surah which surely was the last, and the Prophet had already conveyed how to pray and live and fast. The verse then states that if he doesn't, he hasn't delivered Allah's message. But what one thing is so important without which Islam becomes a wreckage? The verse goes on to say Allah will protect him from the people. So this message must be one that will create hatred amongst the evil. So the Prophet stopped at the place called Khum, piled saddles to make a tower, gave everyone a profound speech that lasted over 3 hours. Remember, Nabi speaks via wahi, so there can't be any suspicion, for he doesn't utter a single word without Allah's permission. He begins by saying, I left behind 2 things of great weight. One is the Holy Quran, and the other is my Sunnah. Wait, in no hadith book ever is written the word Sunnah. So why is it said from pulpits around the world in every Jummah khutbah? No, let's remind the world the truth, that the 2 things of great weight were surely the Quran and his Ahlul Bayt. Ahsan. Hold on to both of these and you'll never go astray. The Prophet will quench your thirst with Kawthar on that final judgment day. Who are your Ahlul Bayt? The companions asked Nabi. His reply was very clear. Ali and the sons of Ali. Every prophet left a successor, so why would Muhammad not? This was a whole religion at stake. It's not like he forgot. Then the Prophet raised Mawla's hand so he could be seen from far, saying, فَمَنْ كُنْتُ مَوْلَى فَهَذَا عَلِيٌّ مَوْلَى. And he didn't just say it once, he multiplied it by 4. And if he had more time, he would have said it more. Now some claim Mawla just means friend. Please, don't make me laugh. If you don't respect Ali, think, where do you do tawaf? Yet we walk... Ali. Yet we walk around the outside when we circulate the Kaaba. But Rukn Yamani opened up for the birth of our master. When the Prophet's sermon ended at Ghadeer, the people said, Bakhin, Bakhin. The people said, Bin Bakhin. They all approached Imam Ali and they were hugging. But where were they when there was a war? Always ducking. If Ali is a lion that roars, they were just clucking. Ya Allah, for those who guard Ali, also be a guard. And those who leave Ali, also disregard. Like the one who heard that Ali was chosen and was angry and in shock. If true, he asked Allah to kill him there and then. So from heaven fell a rock. Others like him can stick to their beliefs, and I'll just stick to mine. I've tried to describe Ali to you, but he really can't be defined. You could give us You could give us 1,000 palaces, but we just want Ali's shrine. Infinite breaths without Mawla will choose death every single time. To conclude, the 6th Imam said, "This is the greatest Eid. Nothing can ever beat it, because today is the day the whole of Islam was completed." Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن،
عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن، عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن، عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن، گھر گھر کو سجایا جاتا ہے، گھر گھر کو سجایا جاتا ہے، عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن،
عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن، گھر گھر کو سجایا جاتا ہے،
مولا کو مولا میدان میں، مولا کو مولا میدان میں، منبر پہ بنایا جاتا ہے، منبر پہ بنایا جاتا ہے، عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن،
جب ذکر علی کا ہوتا ہے، جب ان کے باتیں ہوتی ہیں،
جب ذکر علی کا ہوتا ہے، جب ان کی باتیں ہوتی ہیں، لگتا ہے جیسے اردو میں، لگتا ہے جیسے اردو میں قرآن سنایا جاتا ہے، قرآن سنایا جاتا ہے، عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن، کیا خوب سما کیا خوب سما ہے اہل نظر، ہے دست نبی پر یوں ہے در،
کیا خوب سما ہے اہل نظر، ہے دست نبی پر یوں
جس طرح گواہی دینے کو، جس طرح گواہی دینے کو قرآن اٹھایا جاتا ہے، قرآن اٹھایا جاتا ہے، عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن۔
سورج کی تپش صحرا کی تپش اور اس پہ ولایت کا اعلان،
کیا روز ہے آج منافق کو، کیا روز ہے آج منافق کو، ہر رخ سے جلایا جاتا ہے، ہر رخ سے جلایا جاتا ہے، عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن۔
ہم ناد علی ہم ناد علی جب پڑھتے ہیں کیوں جلتے ہو، یہ فطرت ہے۔
ہم ناد علی جب پڑھتے ہیں کیوں چلتے ہو، یہ فطرت ہے۔ جب مشکل سر پر آتی ہے، جب مشکل سر پر آتی ہے، اپنوں کو بلایا جاتا ہے، اپنوں کو بلایا جاتا ہے، عیدوں کے لیے ہے عید کا دن۔
علی 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 علی
علی علی علی علی
علی علی علی علی
علي 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 رب العلا اختاره منار فاسراره، رب العلا اختاره منار فاسراره، رب العلا اختاره منار فاسراره، كلمة علي درب العدل تهدينا، علي 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 يوم الشدد من كل شدد يحمينا، علي 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 منه الحفظ نهج الرسول ودينا، علي 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 منه الخليفة من بعد هادينا، علي 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 ما ندرس أفكاره منار فاسراره، رب العلا اختاره منار فاسراره، رب العلا اختاره منار فاسراره، نحكي الحقيقة وهذا بيني وبينك، علي 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 انت يا مؤمن منه قرت عينك، علي 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 منه الذي ثبت قواعد دينك، علي 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 منه الذي نور ظلام سنينك، علي 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 ما تسطع انوارك منار فاسراره، رب العلا اختاره منار فاسراره، رب العلا اختاره منار فاسراره، منار فاسراره منار فاسراره.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
That was to the wire. Namaz time now.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر جل جلاله ربي وأنت أرحم الراحمين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أشهد أن عليًا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليًا حجة الله صلوات الله وسلام عليه حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله أستغفر الله ربي من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه يا محسن قد أتاك المسيء فتجاوز عن قبه ما عندي بجميل ما عندك يا كريم الله أكبر الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر وليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. الله أكبر. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا ولي العافية نسألك العافية عافية الدين والدنيا والآخرة بجاه محمد وإترته الطاهرة. يا رب الحجة أسألك الحجة. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك، لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
استغفر الله ربي من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله. أستغفر الله ربي من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه. يا محسن قد أتاك المسيء فتجاوز عن قبيح ما عندي بجميل ما عندك يا كريم. أستغفر الله ربي. الله أكبر،
الله أكبر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد، الله الصمد، لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. اللهم ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا واجزهما بالإحسان إحسانا وبالسيئات عفوا وغفرانا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته بحول الله وقوته. أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا ولي العافية نسألك العافية، عافية الدين والدنيا والآخرة، بجاه محمد وإترته الطاهرة. يا رب الحجة أسألك الحجة. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إنه ليس لي علم بموضع الرزق، وإنما أطلبه بخطرات تخطر على قلبي، فأجول في طلبه البلدان، فأنا فيما أنا طالب كالحيران. لا أدري أفي سهل هو أم في جبل، أم في أرض أم في سماء، أم في بر أم في بحر، وعلى يدي من ومن قبل من، وقد علمت أن علمه عندك وأسبابه بيدك، وأنت الذي تقسمه بلطفك وتسببه برحمتك. اللهم فصل على محمد وآله، واجعل يا رب رزقك لي واسعا، ومطلبه سهلا، وما أخذه قريبا، ولا تعنني بطلب ما لم تقدر لي فيه رزقا، فإنك غني عن عذابي وأنا فقير إلى رحمتك. فصل على محمد وآله، وجد على عبدك بفضلك، إنك ذو فضل عظيم.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات الله صل على. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. بحق امیر المؤمنین. अपना जे भाइयों बहनों बच्चाओं बीमार छे, આપણે દુઆ કરે કે અલ્લાહ લોકો બધાને શફા દે, બધાની તકલીફો દૂર થાય. આપણા આલિમો મરજા મોમિનીન ને મોમિનાત દુનિયામાં જ્યાં બી હોય, યા અલ્લાહ તો લોકોને હિફ્ઝ અમાનમાં રાખ, અમારી બધી હાજતો પૂરી કર, અમારા ઇલ્મમાં વધારો કર. એવી દુઆ સાથે આપણે બધા સાથે 5 ફેરે અમ્મા જીબવું પડીએ. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 سورة فاتحة شفاء المرضى ودفع البلاء. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين مظلوم شهيد كربلاء. السلام عليك يا أبو الفضل العباس. السلام عليك يا أولاد الحسين وأصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان. ألمون 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك طوى وتمتع فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على
Gentlemen, can you please be seated? Tabarruk is being served now. Please be seated, son.